Yeah, we're good. Hi everyone, good afternoon. We are back for Q&A number 2 of today. I am here with Helen Cliff, who is one of the candidates. Am I right for saying, Helen, that you're for Labour this year?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Labour.
Yeah, so if you could just introduce yourself, Helen, for us.
Okay, so you've already said my name's Helen. I'm standing on the Labour ticket for the local elections this time round, and I'm standing in the Sizenby ward, which is where I live.
Okay. And I say this every Q&A, but just to reiterate, folks, you can only vote for candidates in your ward. If you're unsure of what your ward is, please input your postcode into the Melton Borough Council website and they will be able to tell you. So, let's kick off with your manifesto, Helen. So, we're going to firstly kick off with a little bit about yourself that you sent over earlier, and your background in youth work and your Sure Start family support. Now, I know speaking to Sarah in the last Q&A that there was very much a focus about youth facilities. Is that something that you guys are wanting to focus on across the whole party? With all your councillors
in absolutely. The ward? Yeah, we do. And, I'm going to be fair here. I don't think we're the only ones saying it, right? Okay, there's general recognition that certainly our disenfranchising people deserve better in this town, and we can do better in this town. It's not because we don't have any youth facilities. I don't want to, at this stage, I want to absolutely give my thanks to everyone in the voluntary sector who already give their time to young people through the scouting movement my kids have been involved in, cadets, sporting teams. There are things that happen in Melton. We've already got some fantastic people in Melton that volunteer in that. So what I don't want to do is make people who are already sort of working with young people thinking, don't we count for anything? You absolutely count, and we really thank you for everything you're doing. But there are absolutely young people who don't access those, who can't access those for a variety of reasons. And, we need to do better by young people, not just because they deserve it, but because our town deserves it as well.
Yeah.
Because there are two issues for me with I'm really passionate about young people for two reasons. One, just because they themselves, they have got so much potential to offer. And they can actually help to make our town a better place as well. We're not just doing something, it's not just babysitting. They are actually a credible part of our town, and they can contribute to our town as well. And I think that young people should be empowered. They should be empowered to release their potential. They should be empowered to contribute, as well as us, the adults of the town, inputting into them because they deserve it.
Yeah. And I would agree with you 1,000% in there as somebody who's been doing what I've been doing for so long. So you do mention to me when we had our little back and forth over Messenger earlier on that you guys are looking to do a leaflet regarding the controversial merger with Market Harborough. Why is this something that's such a... why is it something that you guys are so passionate about?
Well, I'm passionate about it. That's a strong word, isn't it? I think it's just that we have got concerns about the way that was handled. It's another one of these things that feels a little bit cloak and dagger, where an awful lot of money was spent on a consultation process. It seems a bit weird the way it came about. We're not quite sure in whose interests it was first suggested. There just seem to be a lot of questions about it that have gone unanswered, and it seems to have been like a flash in the pan that's cost a lot of money that hasn't come to anything, and then we're all supposed to just move on and forget about it. It's just I think, and we think as a party, that we just need to understand more about how we got to that position. because it doesn't feel like there's actually been a proper conversation about it. There may be facts available at our fingertips that would convince us that it's a good idea. I don't know. I don't think it is a good idea. Personally, I think that we want to keep decision making for Melton as close to Melton as possible. But let's see what the conversation was. Let's see who started it. Let's see why it happened in the first place. Let's see what alternative options were discussed as well. And let's understand why all that money was spent on consultants.
Yeah. And there does seem to be a theme I found doing Q&As, not just for you guys from Labour, but across the board, that the idea of the finances and the consultant fee does seem to be one that people are bringing on a lot, and more importantly, they're very vocal about. Noticing a pattern.
Yeah.
So we've discussed the consultants, we've looked at the merger, we've touched a little bit about your passion with and how much about the youth there as well. You stay on your personal message about how you live in Salisbury Ward and you want to represent ordinary local concerns, from recycling to buses, cycle lanes to shopping. So let's break that particular sentence down. So let's look at the cycle lanes, because that's actually a topic that hasn't come up in any of the Q&As so far.
Yeah, so this is, when I wrote that, those were just some of the things that have come up with, when I've been speaking to people.
Okay.
When it comes to cycle lanes, that's tricky because that falls into sort of transport and roads, and of course you then interact with county council, and that dynamic's difficult. Borough councillors don't have as much power over those things as perhaps just the way it's structured. But certainly there's been also talk about our roads and about what happens when we reorganise our roads, and how that all fits in with the bypass. And then there have been really, really weird ideas about making I think what's missing in our conversations about road traffic is cycle lanes. And I think that it's to sort of greenwash their proposal almost, just to kind of keep people happy. And I worry that not a lot of thought goes into that. Now, I'm not a cyclist, so I come from a point of ignorance. So hands up on that one. I'm not a cyclist. There are lots of reasons I'm not a cyclist, but a cycle lane would not be something that I would. However, lots of people would like to use cycle lanes, and certainly in the context of a dwindling bus service and challenges around parking in town, and also the green agenda as well. That should be looked at in partnership with those who do use cycle lanes, really importantly, because I can't talk from an informed position on that, but I recognise it as being an issue that I think should be spoken about, and should be spoken about in the context of any town planning, any sort of lobbying that we do with counterparts at county.
Yeah. And am I right in saying that you've held your hands up and said not a cyclist? Am I right in saying that as part of that plan you would be consulting cyclists within that area?
Absolutely, 100%. We would absolutely have to. That kind of consultation is paramount and free.
Yeah. You also bring up the recycling. Is that an issue that you've identified personally, or is that another one that has been identified from people that you've spoken to?
I think actually this is more specific to garden waste. I think, we've all seen those posts on social media, haven't we, about the cost of the green bin and the lack of competition, and how people feel forced into paying a particular amount of money to one, and the involved private sector in that public service hasn't led to lower prices, led to competition. And so I really think work on encouraging people how to handle their garden waste a lot better. And we need to look at the vision that we've got locally on that, because there's a lot of, I've picked on with people, there's a lot.
Apologies, folks. For some reason, we have just had a slight technical issue. I think it might be an internet one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and have a look at that now for you guys. So I'm just going to take a quick pause here whilst we sort it out. In the meantime, oh, hang on. We're back to life again. So in the meantime, whilst we are just reloading up this technical issue, if you've got any questions that you would like me to ask Helen, please put them down into the comments. No question is a daft one, as long as it is Zuckerberg approved, because as well, we will be coming back in a minute to kind of go through these issues as well. But in the meantime, if you would like me to ask Helen a question, please